gate and narrows the way. But now I have traded the wrong for the right. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
Hey everybody, welcome to Audiotopsy week number 2. Vic, quick question. You ever get deja vu?
What?
Yeah, I'm getting it right now. Did you see that?
I did see that. That's
Are we
weird.
live?
Yeah, we are live.
Are we
Well,
live?
okay. Hey, it's Friday night, and we thank everybody that's joined us for joining us. Guys, when you smash that like button, when you subscribe to our channel, when you share our new YouTube channel, people are having trouble finding it, by the way. Just keep looking, okay? Throughtheblack.com is the place where you can find it. That's the easiest place to find it. And link from there. It's our new YouTube channel. Guys, we're back for a second week. And, you know, the reason that we're doing this is we're using music as a tool to minister the gospel. Some people are like, why are you covering Ozzy Osbourne? And, you know, why are you doing this and that? And maybe people think that we're praising him or something like that. No, we're not. We want to have a conversation about music, okay? Just like we would have a conversation about cars if we were all into cars, okay? It's you know, it can be used for good or bad, just like, you know, maybe a car could, right? You can use a knife to butter bread, or you could use it for something else. I don't know, but anyway, we want to talk about this stuff, and I've used music for years as a tool for ministry. When I find out somebody's into a certain type of music, I say, "Hey, okay, I notice you like this band. You know, what do you think about this lyric or this song? You know, which is it could be a song about, you know, something occultic, or it could be a song about something, you know, religious or drugs or something like that." And they're surprised when they find out that, you know, me, a Christian, knows something about their music, right? And then it opens up, and then I have a conversation with them. You know what? It's not for everybody, but it's just a tool that I've been able to use over the years for ministry. And you know, there's a lot of things that we can do. Like we just use the example of cars. People can use sports, can use an interest in cars, things like that, to witness to people. So, but one of the things that kind of popped up on my own social media is they were talking about Ozzy Osbourne and saying Ozzy was a Satanist. Okay, and again, a little bit of deja vu here. But Vic, I want to ask you, like, what is your response to? Oh, there, we're glitching. The Matrix is glitching. What's your response to that when you hear, you know, somebody says Ozzy is a Satanist?
All right. Well, I'm a complete and utter literalist. I think it's because I was an English major and I pick words very, very carefully. And to me, when you say Satanist, you're talking a very specific group of people who intentionally have chosen as their worldview this particular religious system, and they are pursuing that religious system the same way a Christian would. And so they're reading the books and they're doing the rituals and they're pursuing that craft. And so there are a lot of dabblers out there. You know, just because you see a kid, you know, wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt, you know, he might be opening himself up to things that he has no idea he's opening himself up to, but you can't call him a Satanist. I mean, even if there are satanic sigils all over these t-shirts that he's wearing, he's probably ignorant of it. And so I think that we have to make a distinction between an actual practicing Satanist and someone who is perhaps dabbling in satanic elements, the same way we can't call every single person, like if someone's walking down the street wearing a Grace Church t-shirt, I can't assume that they're a flaming born again Christian. Like they might have gotten that shirt at the Goodwill. So we just have to be intentional with the labels that we cast towards people we've never met personally.
Not everybody that lives in Utah is a Mormon. Kenny, what do you think?
What? I thought everybody in Utah was a Mormon. Yeah, newsflash. Yeah, I totally agree with Vicki on the thing. There's a very literal situation with that. To me, it's really hard to pinpoint somebody and say this person is a Satanist, unless they blatantly come out and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm a Satanist," and they start talking about it like that. Like I said, I think a lot of people are kind of dabblers. Maybe are sometimes are getting into it out of curiosity. Some people, because of the way their life, they're not happy with their life. They kind of they're checking into things like that. And I think what you're doing here is really good because it helps people. It gives a transition place, and music is a really good place to do that with, where you can. Because I do that myself with people. Listen to something, I'll say, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool." But have you ever heard this? Have you heard this band? Have you heard this band? And there's a lot of great Christian music out there, and that transition, like I said, I just think we have to be careful with putting that super label on somebody that without.
Well, we want to have integrity in identifying these people, and if we don't, then people aren't going to take us seriously. If we go around calling everybody a Satanist that's into heavy metal music, they're not going to give us the time of day. And it's important that we know, and that's kind of why we're talking about some of these things like the left-hand path. We're talking about chaos magic, so we can identify, very specific things. Why would we need to know about this, or why would we even care? I don't blame the average Christian for not being interested. We shouldn't. We should be more interested about the things of God. Okay. That's why channels like Through the Black are here, so we can help educate people on things that they wouldn't necessarily be interested in looking at. Now, Vic, when we were talking about this before, you used the example of the actor Christopher Lee. Okay. And it has been said about him that he has a large collection of occultic books, right? So
right.
tell us what you heard or what you know.
So in the clip, he's basically dispelling rumors that he, in fact, does not have this large collection of books. The rumors of his death have been highly exaggerated, sort of thing, right? And so he's like, well, I have maybe 5, and then he lists one by name, and then he issues forth a very stern warning that, hey, don't dabble in this stuff. And so, you could take that any way that you wanted, but again, you would have to speculate one way or the other about a man you've never met. So if you say, well, I think he was lying, or I think he had to cover it up, because it wasn't, in vogue at that time to admit that sort of thing. Well, he's an actor, so of course he can be charming on the fly like that. But again, it's all speculation. So for us to take these people out there simply based upon cover art on their albums or stage productions, what's on the stage or whatever, and that's a sigil or whatever. And Tom, you did a really good show with the Take on the World TV guys once, and where they were going over the symbology on Christian albums, with like the one eye symbols and things. And I think that because we are now in a culture where so many of us are becoming educated as to how many of these innocuous symbols we've been seeing all over actually have occult meanings to it, that we're getting a little trigger happy with every single time now that we see an eyeball or we see half of a face on an album. That person is knowingly in the occult and they're a part of this and they're a shill. And I think we need to kind of take it back 1,000 at this point, and maybe the same way we would test spirits, and I'm not saying that. Yeah. Because if there's a guy out there, like I know, like Toby Mac was one of the guys that was being discussed because there's a big eye on one of his albums and stuff like that. And you know, we really run a risk. I've never met the guy personally. I know I was a huge DC Talk fan in college, but I know that as a Christian, especially one who's out in the public talking about really controversial things like sleep paralysis, you just say one wrong word, or on off the cuff you frame a sentence, you know, that's not quite correct, and people pull that apart and they put it under a microscope, and then you're reading comment sections where you know, she's not even a born again Christian, and it hurts your heart, because you're like, oh, I really should have taken greater care in the way I worded that. Communication is flawed. You can destroy people's entire ministries by these cavalier comments, you know, based on those assumptions. And so I really just think that the onus is on us, especially when we're talking about our brothers and sisters of Christ, you know, in Christ, in the ministry and in Christian music, that we've just got to really be careful before we start calling everybody a Satanist or every Christian a shill or some sort of new age troll.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I'm going to ask Katie to bring up the clip that was referenced, just because this is an example. Christopher Lee, the actor, we're not defending him, okay? But he says in this interview that it was written about him that he has all, you know, this gigantic collection of, you know, occultic books. I feel that the warning that he gives is really gives us evidence of something to go on. If he really had a heart for the occult and the devil, I don't think he would give such a strong warning. So that's my opinion. Now, could he be lying? Yes. Could he be covering up? Yes. Now he's gone now. So anyway, it's very possible, but let's I don't know. I think it's only fair to take them, you know, take this at face value. I would want somebody to do the same thing to me. And, you know, of course, we've been accused of stuff. We've been accused of giving, you know, Masonic handshakes and things like that. I don't even know how to do that, honestly. I couldn't even.
Sorry, that's Vanilla Ice. That's as far as I get.
Yeah, Vanilla Ice. There you go.
Oh.
So, but anyway, just as an example, let's watch this clip, because it's been said about Christopher Lee that, you know, he has this large book collection, and he comes to defend it pretty quick, okay, or defend himself pretty quick on this. So go ahead.
Up in the back there?
It's well known that you have a huge interest in the occult and one of the largest collections of books.
I don't have a huge collection. Somebody wrote I had 20,000 books. I'd have to live in a bath. I have maybe 4 or 5. I have The Devil Rides Out, first edition, signed to me by Dennis Wheatley. There's a book just come out about him called The Devil is a Gentleman. And I have met people who claimed to be Satanists, who claimed to be involved with black magic, who claimed that they not only knew a lot about it, but as I said, I've certainly never been involved, and I warn all of you, never, never, never. You will not only lose your mind, you lose your soul.
So again, he said, you will not only lose your mind, but you will lose your soul. A very strong warning against any involvement in the occult and reading occult books. I don't think that sounds like somebody that is, you know, maybe is involved in the occult, okay, personally. But you could see how, look at characters that he's played in movies, okay? He doesn't help himself out any by, you know, some of these. I mean, he's played satanic priest in movies, and he's done a good job at it, right? So, and then somebody writes something about him, maybe it was based on a rumor or whatever. I remember when I was a kid, there were rumors about Ozzy Osbourne. Okay. The rumor was that he took 5 puppies out of a box and threw them out in the audience and said, if you love me, kill these puppies and throw them up on the stage dead. I went to school with somebody. That's crazy, right? I went to school with somebody who said, yeah, my older brother saw this. And he was just talking about how crazy it was, and he thought it was cool or whatever. And I was like, man, I know somebody only like twice removed that saw it. It's got to be true, right? Well, that wasn't true. Somebody was spreading those rumors for whatever reason, They did the same thing to Marilyn Manson. You guys have heard those rumors, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, we grew up, nowhere near each other, right? In 3 different states, and we heard those rumors. So they did the same thing to Marilyn Manson, exact same rumor. And Marilyn Manson, not defending him, no doubt that he's involved in dark stuff. He said, yeah, I do dark stuff, but I don't do that. Kenny, you were saying that, you saw, when you were younger, you saw Marilyn Manson in concert.
Yeah, I did. I'll say that. He's went through stages of stuff, but that time period in mid-90s, it was Antichrist Superstar. I mean, he was playing it up at full hilt. But I will say this, that when I was at the concert, it did. His show felt evil. It had a lot of stuff to it. Like I said, it's one of the first times I ever was leaving the concert and went, I think I need to go to church now. And I wasn't really even a Christian in my walk at that point. And it's just something with that, but later on he's done stuff that moved away from that. So is it part of a show? Is he really a Satanist, or is he just using it for, whatever purposes? To me, he's pretty far in there. So I can't say for sure though. I don't.
Well, and for me personally, I've looked at a lot of things that he's done, and I've read a little bit of his book. I lean more towards somebody like Marilyn Manson is more involved in the occult than somebody like Ozzy. Guys, we're not defending any of these people. I don't have, a dog in the fight. Okay. But I think it's important to make, right, distinctions and identifications. We wouldn't want anybody, mislabeling us, in any way.
Yeah, but I will say this: Marilyn Manson was great on the Wonder Years when he was that young kid.
Oh yeah. That was a.
Was that a rumor? That was a rumor, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a rumor.
Josh, who was the actor, was one of the kids on there. You look at it and go, it kind of looks like him.
That's another example of just rumors.
Yeah,
just taken off. Who was it that said? Was it Winston Churchill says a lie will make it all the way around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on?
Yeah.
So, we're going to deal with that. There's people that make up lies about us and have in the past. And we know the true story behind the Wonder Year star and the crazy Marilyn Manson rumor. So, yeah. I remember when I saw that, I knew because I used to watch the Wonder Years. I'm like, okay, this guy is not Marilyn Manson. So I didn't even need to,
Vicki was saying something I was going to add something a minute ago, but especially rabbit holes and stuff, man. People were like, we all do this and go down rabbit holes and looking at stuff. But sometimes, and I just tell this, I had somebody quote on something I'd posted something music. And they were like, oh, look at this. And they started pointing out all this symbology. And I said, hey, sometimes a triangle is just a triangle. It's not, you can get where you get so far. And I've been in that place before too, where you start seeing it everything. You're like, oh my gosh, it's in everything. And you can drive yourself crazy with that. And you have to you really got to balance yourself and ground yourself in the Holy Spirit, man. That's a big thing with that. Anything you're doing, even I pray before I work on things to do stuff like this, just because I want to make sure that what we're doing is edifying and really doing what God is wanting us to do.
I have a friend who's a goat farmer, and they get kind of frustrated with all of the connections of goats to Satanism, right? Because they love goats. They work with goats. They milk goats. They get goat soap and goat whatever, everything, right? goat milk, and goats are a great, a big part of their life. And it's like, man, it sucks having the goats connected to this darkness. Okay, obviously, a goat is a creature made, by the Lord. So like owls and other, symbols, bats and spiders, everything connected to, just dark imagery.
Do you think a lot of that comes from just even the aspect of scapegoat and Azazel and that area, that that's where a lot of that, I think people get that from that with goats, period. Not necessarily just like, I mean, when people see something like Baphomet and they see the goat head, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, but there had to be a place where goats became something. And to me, it has, in a biblical stance, it has to be the scapegoat. I mean, that was something that was a ritual that was done. And, that could put it toward a satanic use also.
Absolutely. Not to mention God's going to separate the sheep from the goats. And, that's a literary feature, and I know if you do a lot of research about sheep, there's a lot of information as to the behavior of sheeps, and especially in relationship to their shepherds, that really makes the analogies extremely clear. And so I think that the sheep and the goat were chosen in that literary feature, not because there's something inherently evil about a goat and innocent and pure about a sheep, but that if you actually studied the physiology and the actual aspects of those two animals, because of their character and how they act, it serves as a perfect analogy between someone who is willing and needing to follow a shepherd, and then another animal who instinctively acts differently. And so I think a lot of those analogies get just taken to the nth degree, and then all of a sudden we've got an animal created by God that's now so closely linked with the occult. And anytime you see a goat now, that person's in the occult, and it just spirals out of control at some point.
I think Tom Brady is a Satanist because he's a goat. He is the goat.
He's the goat.
He's the goat. So, I'm starting the rumor right now.
You heard it here first.
Right here.
Here we go, folks. Make sure you spread that around. Speaking of goats and rumors, one of the rumors was that Ozzy sacrificed a goat on stage.
I did not hear that one.
Yeah, that was another one. He took a sword and cut it in half and reached inside and just let the entrails drip all over him. I remember that rumor. It's kind of crazy, but
after watching just like even half of an episode of the Osbournes where he can't even figure out how to
use the remote.
Yeah.
Turn a vacuum on. How would he manage? How would he do that? Well, Kenny and I were talking about this in the last episode, last week's, where like we kind of went into the metal scene as young kids thinking like, this is going to be so bad. This is going to be so evil. And then, you actually get the albums and look at the guys and see their videos and you're like, what? It's almost like this disappointment. And, when I first saw Ozzy back in the 80s, he was in that like rhinestone moo phase where he was like in these like robes that would go to the floor with like sequins up and down. It was like the same stuff that like, an elderly A-list actress would have worn to the Grammy, to like the Emmys. It was like,
that's the Liberace phase he was in, the Liberace phase.
He was in a Liberace phase. And so at that point, trying to associate that with this guy that was like biting heads off of bats and all this, I was like, something does not compute here.
Right. Absolutely. That's funny.
Well, they did a lot of things that did not help their image as far as, being considered Satanist. Okay. For example, one time Ozzy was at a press conference and they were releasing pigeons and one landed on his lap and he bit the head off the pigeon. He was drunk and on drugs. And they kicked him out of the building, his own record label. Yeah. Kind of crazy. So he did stunts like that. That did not help, the satanic image at all.
Sure.
So there's a lot of maybe hypocrisy and contradiction there, no doubt. But I think, they're going to do what they're going to do. But let's get it right. If somebody's a Satanist, then let's do it. We can tell by, there's certain ways that we can tell, right? if they're putting, straight out rituals in their songs, or, they're recruiting, or, something like that, we can see bands out there that are doing that. No doubt there are bands out there that are into some dark stuff, or just have crazy lifestyles, drugs, sex, drugs, all of that stuff, that are anti-God. I mean, let's be honest, guys. We believe that you're either for God or you're against him. So if we wanted to be technical, we could, we're saying anybody that's not serving God is with the devil. Doesn't mean they're a Satanist, but,
Right.
a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon, they're not Christian, they're serving the devil, in a way, and they don't know it. They don't know they are.
Yeah. And, Tom, sometimes we see the opposite too, because I can see, Ozzy started out in Black Sabbath. There's a lot of occult connotations to that name and to what that ritual is. And then he had the song, Mr. Crowley. And so the same way, though, we attach like, okay, you must be a Satanist because of these hints in your song. We can do the opposite. And I see people doing the opposite all the time too. So take, for example, like Creeping Death off the Ride the Lightning album, Metallica. It's all about the plagues of Egypt. And it's extremely, it's taken right out of the narrative, the biblical narrative. I mean, he's talking about Goshen and the plagues and all of this stuff. So if one concluded from listening to one Metallica song, they must be born again Christians because they wrote a Christian song, because it's all in the Bible. So it doesn't work either way. You can't just pull apart, one song and determine, because of the content or the topic that the artist found interesting at that point, that they have built an entire worldview on that one song. And in many cases, even if the songwriting credit goes to the band, we know what happens behind the scenes in the music world. A lot of times those band members are getting songwriting credits and they had nothing to do with writing the song. And so we don't even know ultimately if Ozzy or Metallica or anybody else actually wrote those lyrics, or if those lyrics were ever important to them. So we need more information to round out a conclusion than one song and an entire discography.
These the god of many of these artists is the god of money, and it's about making money no matter what. And we often hear, we've talked about this before in the past, Vicki, the people that have sold their soul, to make this money. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they literally made a deal with the devil, but they compromised, their faith. Some of them, Katy Perry is a famous one who, it was said that she started out, as a Christian artist, and basically, she makes the joke, I sold my soul. Well, that's what that means. And I'm not saying that some of these people did not, but anyway, just because they say that, it's almost like a running joke out there. Now, the people that own the record labels, I would say that they are more likely to be Satanists, those in control, those in power. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of recap that. People are like, why are you guys doing this? Why? We by no means want to bring any glory to any artist, okay? We're using this as a tool to hopefully attract people. When they see the thumbnails, when they see the subject, they're going to come in and say, okay, what are these guys talking about? They're talking about Ozzy Osbourne, or in today's case, we're talking about Hank Williams. I have an interest in Hank Williams, so I want to see what they talk about. Well, we, ultimately, we're going to use that as a tool to share what's closest to our heart, okay, which is the gospel, which is the love of Christ. So anyway, I don't know how we shift gears from all that, but I think it's time to do that. Whoa, hey, I think my deja vu just ended. So, okay, good. We're good. Hey, can you just kind of play us something there, Kenny, just as a transitional little interlude?
Here, you want something rock or country?
Well, you pick, my friend. Whatever's on your heart.
Hey, well, I know Vicki loves Jakey Lee, so I'm gonna play that.
Okay, great transition.
Nice.
On the
So-
spot. There you go.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, yeah.
Hey
Hey, I
guys,
tell you what, I will say this, Tom. I have a
Yeah.
great story, but I'm going to save it because if we're going into country stuff, but I will tell you a story about a group called Coven. I don't know if you've ever heard about them, but I want to hold this because I have a story that involves the band Coven, the lead singer Jinx Dawson, and of course they were really one of the first blatantly satanic groups out there. But this story involves that singer and the person we know and love very much, Sharon Gilbert.
interesting.
What?
It's a great story, man. Nobody's ever heard it. I'm going to pop it on here one day
Oh,
Okay.
my goodness.
because
Okay.
it's a good one. I heard it.
Well, talk
Sharon
about
Gilbert.
cliffhangers.
Oh,
It's a good one.
what? I can't go on from here.
Talk about
wait,
cliffhangers.
we need to be on a more we need to be on a more metal episode, and then
Okay.
I'll drop that one.
Okay.
Okay.
There's some good stories there.
Here, I'm going to make a note.
Make a note.
Sharon Gilbert. Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
It's a
So,
good one.
folks, hey, you might want to stay glued to this channel right here because, especially if you like the Gilberts. Anyway,
Who doesn't love
So-
the Gilberts, man?
Right.
yeah, guys, we were kind of just trying to make some decisions about, okay, what are we going to talk about, on this show, and I have a large, diverse musical interest and influence in my life. Okay. There's a reason I picked out this song today, and it's more of a personal reason, but it gives us a chance to talk about this artist a little bit. Okay. We're not going to give his whole life story, but there's some interesting things about this guy. And I think this song is kind of neat, right? So we heard the song at the beginning. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The song, I Saw the Light. Okay. But I want to jump into the song, and we were trying to find a version of this song that we could play that had the lyrics, but we couldn't find it. So let me give just a little bit of a background to this. Kenny, had you ever heard this song before? The song Kaw-liga?
Well, I thought I hadn't until I heard it. And then I realized that I'd heard it, but not from Hank Williams. I'd heard it from Charlie Pride.
Okay.
Oh, mhm.
Charlie
There's a
Pride.
couple
Yeah.
versions of it, but I listened and realized I was like, I do remember this song. It was like it just kind of came out. I was like, oh, I do remember this song. So very, very interesting song.
Vic, what about you?
I had not. And I actually, contrary to what most people would think, love old country. I love Patsy Cline, Johnny Cash, and some of the people more from before the 80s. And but no, I had never heard it. And as a poet, I was really intrigued with the lyrics. I thought it was a great use of personification.
Yeah. So could you kind of explain? We're going to listen to the song here in a minute, but could you kind of explain what the song is about? Because we don't have the lyrics on the screen.
Yeah.
We couldn't find one that we wanted to use. So anyway.
I'm kind of wondering, Tom, this is just speculation. I'm wondering if it's hard to find the lyrics on the YouTube because it's not really politically correct anymore. There's some
I thought about that.
comments about, because it's about this wooden Indian in a window in a shop, and he's staring across the street at another window to another shop, and there is another kind of fair maiden statue of a female Indian. And he loves her, but he's too shy or scared or whatever to say anything. And she also has feelings and is waiting for him to initiate. And so it's just this unrequited love. And he just stares longingly at her and never can quite get up the nerve. And then inevitably she is purchased and taken out of the window, and it slips through his fingers, and it's very sad, and yet it's a personification. When I first listened to it, just at face value, I literally thought the reason why they couldn't exchange this love is because they weren't human. They didn't have the capacity. They were made out of wood. And so It actually works on many different levels, which I love lyrics like that. But it's sad, and I always think it's funny. And someone's written a good song if they can take inanimate objects and personify them, and then you feel empathy for that thing. And so it's like Vic, it was a wooden statue. Like, settle down. Like, he's not brokenhearted, but this inanimate object is experiencing something common to humanity. It's something that we've all been through, where we can't express our feelings for whatever reason, and that slips through the fingers, and then we always feel like we've had this loss. And so he really captures the human essence of heartbreak, but not doing it in the cliche way of every other song, especially country songs, which are notorious for the heartbreaks. So he puts it in this framework of statues in the window. It really is brilliant. The more I think of it from a lyrical standpoint, it really was very clever.
I agree with your assessment. I think it's brilliant, and it's amazing to me that it came from that time. So let's listen to it, and I want to get Kenny's response to it. So if we've got the clip, we're going to go ahead. This is Kaw-liga by Hank Williams.
Elijah was a wooden Indian standing by the door. He fell in love with an Indian maid over in the antique store. Elijah just stood there and never let it show, so she could never answer yes or no.
Okay, go ahead and pause it right there. So, anyway, just kind of, starting off, this was actually Hank Williams' very last hit, and it came out after he passed away.
Yeah, it did.
So now my connection to this song kind of happened in the last 20 years. I have a son named Elijah, right? And my grandfather would sing that song to him. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
And he would call him Kaw-liga. Yeah, his name is Elijah, but he would say that. Yeah, that's a picture of my grandfather quite a few years ago before he passed away. He was pretty old in that picture there. But anyway, yeah, my grandfather, John Haar, he was pretty much, the guy that raised me there. But he would always sing that song. And after, Apple Music or whatever, I was like, I'm going to look up that song because I never heard the real song before.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and then I bought it, for like $1. And then I played it for my son, and my son was just, all smiles. He was like, yeah, that's the song that grandpa. And then I went and played it for my grandpa before he passed away. I was like, hey, grandpa, listen to this, And that's how I heard that song was him. And I didn't know, the story behind it or whatever, but it was actually based on a real Indian. And we found the article, our producer found the article. So if Katie can bring that up, I don't know if she's got that, but here we go. This is, of course, ads playing in the background. Hank Williams was a legend by all accounts, an incredible singer, a phenomenal storyteller, and a legendary songwriter. During his career between 1947 and 1952, he released 31 singles, and even more were released posthumously. This includes Kaw-liga. Recorded as part of Williams' final recording sessions in 1952 at Castle Studio in Nashville, Kaw-liga became his first posthumous single following his shocking and unexpected death on New Year's Day, 1953. The song reached number 1 position with high speed and remained at the top of the Billboard country charts for 14 weeks. Didn't know anything about this song. And the story of Kaw-liga says both Hank Williams and his producer, Fred Rose, worked a great deal on Kaw-liga, which found its inspiration from a time when the singer was enjoying a getaway at his cabin in Kaw-liga, Alabama, a lakeside community in central Alabama. The community was named after a legendary Indian for which a wooden statue was later placed near the lake. Watching the wooden statue of the Indian Kaw-liga from his cabin, Williams was inspired to write one of the last songs of his career. The song tells the story of a wooden Indian called Kaw-liga who fell in love with an Indian maid over at the antique store, but was never able to to show his true love, his true feelings until one day a wealthy customer bought the Indian maid and took her away, took her oh so far away. Poor Kaw-liga, he never got a kiss. Poor Kaw-liga, he don't know what he missed. It is any wonder that his face is red, Kaw-liga, that poor old wooden head. And, you know, the song goes on. But so, again, just kind of going back to your comments, Vicki, to be inspired by that, and Hank Williams wrote a lot of songs about just broken hearts and lost love, and I'm so lonesome I could cry. And
Cheers my beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loneliness and things like that. You know what's interesting is my son, who likes a lot of music from mostly the 70s and 80s recently. Okay, for some reason he has been listening to Hank Williams, and that's when I got the idea to listen, or to do this song. And it's really interesting to see that. It's like, where did this come from? Why does he have an interest in this? Sometimes Hank Williams he's like really yodeling and stuff in his music, and it doesn't seem like this is what a 15-year-old kid would be into. But anyway, Ken, we're gonna listen to more of the song. But what are your, what's your thoughts on not only the lyrics but the music and
Yeah, honestly, I was going to say they couldn't release this song right now because it would be shut down for being cultural appropriation, all kinds of stuff, man. The red face, I was reading the lyrics, I was like, wow, this is, it's definitely a 2022 song. But I will say this, I don't know if a lot of people know that I hear an echo. I don't know if you guys are hearing an echo.
I do too.
That Hank Williams died at 29. And his career was very short and quick for as many songs as he's put out there over the years. Now, Kaw-liga for me is a very, it's kind of like to me, it's like feels like a B-side single. Like it's not like when you talk to people about Hank Williams, that's not a song that comes up. It's usually one of the great ones and stuff like that. To me, I had a discussion with a student talking about that. Moving On Over is like really one of the first really rock songs that you hear that have this driving beat, and it's got this whole thing, and you're like, oh, what a cool song, man. And George Thorogood took it and did stuff with it, but Hank Williams really laid down a foundation musically for stuff that was really, really great. The song works because it's got a couple things. It's actually fairly simple. The verses are all based on E minor. It's got a sound, but he's doing that tribal beat. Dun, 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 dun. It sets it up. They're playing these little Indian sounding little things. So it's a really brilliant song. And I listened to it, was like, oh, I've forgotten how cool. It's got some great strings in it and stuff like that. But what's really interesting is like the song is it's got that tribal feel, E minor. And then when the chorus comes around and when it's talking about the kiss, it goes to E major. He changes it from E major to E minor and kind of goes into a traditional country sound that's a little more upbeat. And then he takes it back into the tribal like that, which is really cool. I really enjoyed the song, man. I really enjoyed listening to it. Well, I was like, this is a good song.
See, I love it, Kenny, when guys like you analyze songs because you bring out the things that I don't catch. Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you, and I think maybe I know the answer, maybe I don't. Have you ever watched the Rick Beato channel?
The what?
Rick Beato. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh, yeah. Yes. No, I love Rick Beato, man. That guy.
Okay, so I like watching him, too, because he breaks down the song just the way that you did. I'm a lyric guy. Yeah. And I'm not, I don't really, I appreciate the music, but for me, lyrics are priority. Okay. And you could have bad production and, even not really great players. And if you had poetry, I would probably like it. I don't have an ear for music the way that you do, but I love it when you bring it out because you just brought things out in the song that I never knew were there, the key changes and stuff like that. So let's listen to a little bit more of it here and see if we can hear some of the things that you mentioned. So, and putting our producer on the, here we go.
Wore his Sunday feathers and held a tomahawk. The maiden wore her beads and braids and hoped someday he'd talk. Elijah, too stubborn to ever show a sign, because his heart was made of knotty pine. Oh, Elijah, he never got a kiss. Oh, Elijah, he don't know what he missed. Is it any wonder that his face is red? Elijah, that poor old wooden head.
Okay, and stop it right there for us, Katie. So, just like you said, it went to more of a country, theme there.
Yes.
So, man, again, I think that this idea for this song is pure genius.
Okay? Oh yeah,
no, it does work.
And here's is that like, I can't see this. It says I know the original statue got stolen.
Oh, it says Kaw-liga. That's right, it did. It got stolen.
Kaw-liga 4, actually, because they had to replace it like so many times because it kept getting stolen.
The last one was made of concrete.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was reading about this yesterday, I'm like, man, I wonder how somebody's hid this statue for over 50 years. Like, how do you do that? Where is that original Kaw-liga statue? Somebody's got to know where that thing is, right?
Maybe he found his maiden and they lived happily ever after.
That's funny, Vic. Elijah ran away. He found a girlfriend.
Right. He found her. He tracked her down. Hey, Kenny, kind of going with the stuff that you were saying. As Hank Williams was a country artist before he became famous, as he was learning the craft, this is one of the things in my research that I thought was so cool, because I love blues guitar, like old, like Delta blues. And Tom and I have done shows on Blind Willie Johnson, and he learned, and he paid a guy with in like food and stuff like that. Like in exchange, he paid this guy for guitar lessons with like food, but it was a street blues musician named Rufus Payne. And so he actually learned guitar by a blues musician. So it'll be interesting as I listen more to him to see if that blues influence comes out in his playing.
Oh, it does.
Does it?
Big time. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Go listen to Move It On Over. Move It On Over, man. I'm telling you, hear it, you'll hear it. It's just got this bluesy, swampy groove to it. It's so good.
I love it.
I'm just like I said, I'm amazed at the fact that Hank Williams had such a prolific career that was literally 5 years long. It was very short. It was very short. And I will say this, what I did not know is when I was looking up some things on this is that, he died on January 1st, I think 1953. Mm-hmm. He was 29. And, he died from heart failure, which is what I'm in Cleveland right now getting treated for. So it's amazing that time period that back then that was something that killed him so young.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm sure that there were other things that played a part in it as well. Like,
probably
his
alcohol.
Alcohol, no doubt. But he actually died in the back of a car on the way to Canton, Ohio. Or he could have died in the, they think there's a possibility he died in the hotel that he was in the night before too.
Wow.
And his driver was hired to take him to do a show in Canton, Ohio area. And he was dead by the time, he was just, the guy didn't know maybe he did know and didn't want to deal with it. So he got to the show and there, that's where he was pronounced dead. But, interestingly enough, those demons, went generational. We could talk about generational curses right here. Speaking of Hank Williams, and look at Hank Williams Jr. And then there is Hank Williams III. And then now there's a fourth. Did you know that, Ken?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. There's quite a few little family people in there, man. It's amazing. And they're all really pretty musically gifted in very different ways. I mean, Hank Williams III, man, he's kind of got this
punk rockabilly thing going. It's very different, but he looks and sounds a lot like Hank while he's putting his own stamp.
Man,
So,
a lot. He looks a
Mhm.
lot like his granddaddy,
he really
doesn't he?
does. Yeah, he really does.
And he can sing like him
Mhm.
too. This is not about Hank 3, but Hank 3 owed a lot of money in child support. And he was like, I need to make some money. And he figured out, he wasn't really interested in it, but he figured out he could sound like his grandfather and do that kind of music and go out under that name. And that's how he made money to pay his child support. But he was also interested in heavy metal music. So he joined up with Phil Pantera to get in the band Superjoint Ritual. Okay.
That's right. Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
So Hank the third, I think it was his third or fourth album. The name of the album was called Straight to Hell. Okay. Very dark content, sounding like Hank Williams the first.
Wow. Yeah.
And he had, you can look, there's photo ops out there where he was, I'm not saying that he was a Satanist, okay, Hank the third, but he definitely was sympathetic to the people from the Church of Satan, the LaVeyan Satanist.
Oh, yeah.
He's got his arm, he's pretty friendly with them, okay? And it wouldn't surprise me. Now I'll say this, I don't think Hank cared enough. Maybe Hank III cared enough to be a Satanist. I could be wrong. I'm not defending him again. Maybe he did. Maybe his rejection of Christianity is what drove him to that, or his disbelief in God because they claim atheist, they're atheists. So there's a I think this is kind of goofy, but Hank Williams Sr. got kicked out of the Opry because of his behavior. Okay. And there are people to this day still thinking that he should be reinstated, And I've been to Nashville.
Wow.
And I've seen stickers put up like the Opry has sinned. Like it was a sin to kick Hank Williams out of the Opry.
Wow.
And, that he needs to be reinstated. I'm like, you know what? With all the things going wrong in the world, this is your campaign. This is what you care about. There's just lots of crazy things that need attention. Just pick anything. But this is what you're going to campaign for, is to have Hank Williams reinstated in the Opry. But anyway.
Well, isn't it way more rock and roll to have been kicked out?
Yeah, I would say so. The song at the beginning there, I Saw the Light. I was actually in Nashville at the Country Music Hall of Fame, and there was an exhibit, a display of the Williams family. And it was based on Hank Sr., Hank Jr., and the daughters and sons of Hank Williams Jr. Okay. And they were, they had just all kinds of, instruments and outfits and things like that. This was quite a few years ago, but I remember watching, you're walking around looking at clips, and this one I've never forgotten. It was Minnie Pearl being interviewed, and they were talking about singing the song I Saw the Light, and Minnie Pearl was just kind of having a moment there. I tried to find this clip, but I haven't been able to find it, where she was trying to encourage Hank Williams. Like, man, he's just really depressed or down or something like that. And I'm just kind of giving my own take on this. And she's trying to encourage him in the Lord even. And he said to Minnie Pearl, he said, I don't believe in the light. In other words, he didn't believe, in the gospel. And I think he wrote that song. So maybe he wrote the song before and he lost his faith. Look at the way that his life ended. It's pretty sad, And not only the way that he ended, but look at the way that he lived his life, right? It's amazing that he wrote so many songs in such a short amount of time. Okay. And then he ended that way. There's, Hank Williams Jr., there's just it's such like a public example of generational curses, right? We can take a look at that family and see like, okay, the father opened up the door to the abuse of substances, okay, and then it went down to the son. You know, there was loss of a father, you know, broken relationship, who knows, you know, neglect or whatever, and then that has an effect on the son, and then the same thing has an effect on the third, okay, and then so on and so forth. And obviously, you know, this is a public study in generational curses. They need Jesus, you know, just to repent, to turn away. They need to get saved, and to break that curse, to renounce it, and to renounce the things that have happened before them. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I'm thinking of several verses from the book of James. I'm thinking, the one about how the right between the righteous and the wicked, and that the wicked are struck down in the midst of their pursuits, and just this sudden death when he, think what he could have done with, a 40-year career or 50-year career, or maybe he would have seen the light if he had gotten sober and gotten over his demons. And then I'm also thinking of, what does it profit a man if he gains the entire world but loses his soul? And so we put so much emphasis in our culture on fame and our 15 minutes of fame. And if we don't have any sort of real talent or skill, then we're going to get the second tier down. We're going to get the fake fame on social media, and we're going to have our little, influencer award hanging on our wall or whatever. But what good is it even if you do achieve everything and you get into the Grand Ole Opry and you've got all these hits and people love and revere you long after your death, but like in the end you've got nothing.
Yeah. I can speak from personal experience that from just being a musician all my life and touring and the stuff that goes with that if you're pretty weak in life with what's going on and you have addiction issues and all these kind of things, that stuff's going to be ramped up when you're out touring, because you're on the road all the time. You're usually away from your loved ones. It exasperates all that stuff. So you may be traveling in a bus 12 hours of the day, and then there's that 2-hour show where you're on top of the world, and then they take you and put you in a hotel room or back in a bus, and then you're by yourself. And you see, that's where a lot of great songs get written from that place. But I realized it was when I was out doing that in that world of stuff that I was like, I get why there's so many people that have drug and alcohol problems in the music industry, period. And that's part of the reason that I kind of backed out of that, because I realized, I was like, it's kind of sad, and it's tough to see. But here's the thing: what would have happened if he had actually seen the light? I mean, that's the thing. If he'd seen it, he could have really reached a lot of people with that. And sadly, we'll never know.
Now, I'm not sure about this. I haven't seen it myself, but I guess I've heard, and there might be a testimony there with Hank Williams Jr. That he has come to faith. I don't know 100% on that, and the reason I say that is because it seems as though this should have happened a long time ago, I think. But I've seen some things since then that don't really line up with somebody that's come to faith. I don't sit in judgment over him, but that's just my personal opinion.
I mean, didn't we like in the last year see a show that was Kanye West, who supposedly had given himself to the Lord, and there was Kanye and I want to say Marilyn Manson and Justin Bieber, and they were all on this like white church-looking house dressed in white, and I watched it. I went, there's nothing they can tell me that's going to make me believe that these guys are Christians now. I was like, I don't care. You can stand up there and you guys can be in white shirts and your stuff. I was like, I'm going to have to really see some fruit, because I wasn't feeling it at all.
Hey, no, that's a good point. That's a very good point, Kenny. Yeah. Fruit.
That's it. That's it. And that should be what most of it's based on. Your stuff is that, you can judge people by their fruit is what you should be judging them on, and not necessarily their appearance or what they talk about. Sometimes people can talk a good game and say stuff, but really seeing what's happening with their life, if they're producing, edifying fruit, that's a big thing.
Yeah, no doubt. So,
Absolutely.
well, folks, I'm interested to hear your stories of Hank Williams. Did you, like me, grow up? I kind of grew up in a bunch of different households. When I was at my grandparents', my grandma listened to country music radio from the 70s and 80s. So it was Alabama, the Oak Ridge Boys, okay. What's the guy that sings Eastbound and Down? Jerry Reed. Then I went to my cousins who listened to heavy metal. Then my mom, she listened to whatever was popular, on the radio, pop music, rock and roll, and so I had a lot of different things, and I lived in Nashville actually for a couple years. I couldn't stand country music when I lived there. But later on, I got into the old stuff, just the original Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, all of the, the Willie Nelson, and got an appreciation for that later on. But folks, these shows are not an endorsement of the songs or the artist or their lifestyles or anything like that. It's just a place where we can come together, have a conversation, and just examine everything in light of God's word with what my friend Russ would call spirit-lit eyes, right? We're looking at it through the lens of the Bible. And, it's not going to hold up, right? It's what I mean by that is when we examine it, even our own lives, okay, it holds us accountable. This book knows us, okay, as we say on here. So we appreciate you guys just sharing the show and everything you do to help us put it out there. This is a little bit different from our regular shows. And we realize that this is not for everybody. So, hey, you're not going to hurt our feelings if you don't like it. But we're looking for the audience. We're looking for the people that do appreciate what we're trying to do. So any closing thoughts on Hank Williams or just what we're talking about?
I just want to point out a little bit of synchronicity. When Kenny played a little ditty for us at the beginning, he did the Bark at the Moon riff, which is Jakey Lee's real name was Jakey Lou Williams. So that connection to Hank Williams Jr., not related, but little synchronicity there. I thought that was cool.
There you go. That was for you. Hey, I gotta say this. I did grow up really loving country music as a kid, and I kind of come into it as I've gotten older. I love about anything. But I will say, I think a song we should look at and people might want to go check out. If you like very traditional sounding country, go listen to Sturgill Simpson, Sturgill Simpson. He has a song called Turtles All the Way Down. And it sounds like the most classic country, but the lyrics will completely blow your mind. He's singing it like an old song from the 70s. It's got this, Merle Haggard vibe. And then the lyrics are like, what are you talking about? It may be a good song for us to talk about. You check it out.
Okay.
You're going to be like, what is he? It's
cool.
Crazy. So I'm adding that.
Interesting. That sounds like a quote straight from Derek Gilbert. Turtles All the Way Down. He used to say that, like when he was talking about what the other people believe. But yeah. So a lot of love for the Gilberts over here at Through the Black, no doubt. But hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Tomorrow night we're going to be back with Supernatural Saturdays. Pastor Sean, and so we will see you next time. God bless everybody. Bye.